So, in tomorrow's Torah reading, we'll begin with the command of God to Moses to build the ark. And the first thing that God says about the ark is, tell Bezalel, which is the architect, that when he makes the ark, he should use pure gold, both on the outside and on the inside. Now, I understand why the ark should be covered with gold on the outside. The outside is the part of the ark that everyone who comes into the sanctuary will see. But why was it to be covered with gold on the inside? After all, nobody would see the inside of the ark. I'm talking the ark in the wilderness, not this one, who after a process of democracy, every Jew is allowed to come and touch the Torah and be part of that journey. So why then does God tell Moses to tell Bezalel that he should use pure gold both on the outside of the ark, where everyone will see it, and on the inside of the ark, where no one will see it? So the traditional explanation is that this was God's way of teaching us the importance of sincerity. It was God's way of teaching us that the person, just like the ark, should be the same on the outside, like in the inside. That the person should behave the same way when people see you and when nobody sees you. That could be. But let me offer you another explanation for your consideration. I learned it from Rabbi Jack Rimmer. When he speaks about the Parsha, he asks us to pay attention to a poem called For Those Whose Work is Invisible. It begins the following way. For those who paint the underside of boats. Can you imagine what it must be like to spend your days in the hot sun painting the bottom of a boat? When your job is finished and the paint is dry, they will push the boat into the water. No one will ever see the work of your hands again. People will notice and they will praise the work of the man who painted the top side of the boat. No one will notice or care about the work of the man who painted the bottom of the boat. Your work will be invisible. And so when you see everybody admiring the man who painted the top side and nobody pays attention to the work that you did, you're liable to become angry and to become envious. And you're liable to say to yourself, what an idiot I was. I could have done this job in half the time if I had not been so insistent in doing it just right. And now look, nobody cares about what I did. All they care about is what the guy who painted the top side. Next time, I know better. But you better not say that, because if you do you know what will happen? If you don't do your job well, if you paint the bottom of the boat with insufficient paint, or if you use cheap paint, it will crack, and water may seep into the boat, and the safety of the boat will be in danger. So the man who paints the top side may make the boat beautiful, but the man who paints the underside is the one who makes the boat safe. Therefore, even if no one notices, even if no one appreciates your work, you better do it in the right way. So the poem goes on to praise also the scholars whose research leads to no remarkable discoveries, but whose efforts clear the way for those whose discoveries are remarkable. And the sewer engineers and those who repair water mains who we never see and whose work we take for granted, but without whose work our lives would be impossible. And the surgeons whose sutures are carefully done, even though they will be thrown away when the body heals. And all those who labor for your entertainment, knowing that their effect will be unknown to all the rest of us. God bless them all, says the poem. You know, almost every artist, not only the famous ones, but even the ordinary artists, sign his or her work so that anybody who sees it will know who did the painting. But have you noticed that God is not like that? You will not find a single sign, not at the Grand Canyon, not the Iguazu Falls, nor the sunrise and not at the sunset, and not anywhere else that says made by God. Because God's work is anonymously. And God works with no need for praise of publicity. And what the poet is saying in this last line is that these people, the men who paint the underside of the boat and the men who makes the wires that you cannot see. You know, Marshall, we used to come twice a week for a year and a half to see, and crews of people doing a job that nobody sees. We only see these beautiful lights and but they work weekly. And now I think, did I say thank you enough? As rabbis, we pay many visits to hospitals and rehab centers, and usually, this is what we see. The family waits sometimes hours for the doctor's visit. The doctor will come in once a day, will ask the patient a few questions, took the pulse, and gave instructions to the nurses, and then she will leave. But you have the nurses and the aides and the therapists who do the work of caring for the patients, and not only don't have those salaries, don't receive the recognition. God bless the doctors, but the nurses and the therapists, the one who bathe the patient and clean the floors. I want you and I to learn from this message that in any job you do, whether it is nursing or teaching or working with computers or being a volunteer in a synagogue or tutoring kids in a school or whatever it is, what counts the most is not whether you do the job with your hands or with your brain. What counts is whether you do your job with your heart and with your soul. That is why God told Moses to tell Bezalel to work not only with his hand and not only with his skills, but with his heart. And that is why God told the people of Israel to build the ark with gold on the outside and gold on the inside. Because it's what you have on the inside that determines the worth of your outside. Know that like the painter of the bottom side of boats, and like the surgeon who makes stitches very carefully, even though he knows that they will not last for very long, and like the people who repair sewers, who no one will ever say thank you, but who make it possible for us to live clean lives, know that you too do invisible but indispensable work. May the poem that we have heard today, and may the portion of the Torah that we have, and we will read tomorrow, teach us to work the way these invisible people and the creator of the universe do their work. If we can learn to do our work in the same spirit with devotion that they do, then our work will be blessed by the one true God who sees both inside and outside ourselves. And may we, who are the beneficiaries of the work, remember to say thank you to everybody for what they do. And to this word, let us say together, Amen.